13 steps to great bagpipe sound in just about 10 minutes. Step 1, you want to check and make sure your bag is airtight, and you want to ask yourself that question every time you start playing. As long as you've been playing recently and you've seasoned recently and you have no reason to think that it's not airtight, you should be good to go, but make sure you always ask the question. If there's any doubt in your mind, cork off the bag and test for airtightness. If it's leaking, do something about it. It should still be tight after about 30 seconds of testing. Step 2, ask yourself, are my joints airtight? These are all the joints where your drones, chanter, and blow stick meet the bag. Twist check your joints as you pick your pipes up out of the box every time you play. Should take a little bit of muscle to get them out, but not too much. Next, check for your reed seats airtightness. Ask yourself that question every time you take a reed in or out of the bag. Is my reed airtight? If the reeds aren't snug, you'll end up sounding not that great and hurting people's ears. Okay. If you could do this, you're probably all right, which is, really put the reeds to the test and make sure they're snugly in the seat. The next question, are my drones properly calibrated? Your drone reeds should not take too much air. They should all shut off at the exact same pressure. When you blow a little bit too hard on your chanter reed, it might look something like this. And they all shut off there, which is really nice. If the reeds don't shut off, you want to close them down a little bit by moving the bridle down towards the end of the tongue on the reed. Okay, and you'll do the opposite. If they shut off too soon, at too easy a pressure, you'll back the tongue upward, opening the tongue up on the reed a little bit more. Step 5, find your chanter reed's sweet spot. And we use a manometer for this. And a manometer is a tool that we use to measure specific pressures on the bagpipe. Now, the sweet spot is the maximum pressure your reed can play without experiencing any unwanted sounds like squeaks on the instrument. In this example, have a look at how the sound starts to distort when we go above that red marker on my manometer. See how it gets a bit gurgly? Now we want to mark that maximum safe pressure on the manometer, and that is going to be our target, our sweet spot. Now, as we're playing, we're going to try to keep the water perfectly steady at that sweet spot, at least within an inch. Moving on to step 6. Now that we know where the sweet spot is, we want to try to master the physical aspects of steady blowing on the bagpipe. It's important not to move your fingers during this process. So here I am blowing a bit unsteadily. Now, what is the cause of that unsteadiness? It'll have something to do with blowing, squeezing, or transitioning between blowing and squeezing. Here's me now keeping it nice and steady. Again, if you can keep the water within 1 inch of that sweet spot, you're in good shape. Now, the next thing is mental blowing mastery. So now when we start to play notes and move our fingers, we need to make sure that nothing we're doing with our finger work affects the steadiness of our blowing. Okay, that's pretty good there. Okay, so are you surging or dipping on certain notes when you play? Okay, so if you're surging like that, that means that is a mental blowing mistake. And those are the types of things we need to practice and work out of our playing. Can you keep the water within 1 inch of that sweet spot? Here I am doing it without looking, which is probably the best test for whether or not you're ready to move on to high quality tuning. Okay? Now, before we do any tuning though, we want to acclimatize our instrument. This is step 8 of the process. Here's me in a recent practice session just getting warmed up. Now we put down the pipes, probably for 15 solid minutes. That would be best. And then we can get to tuning and doing the rest of the steps in the great bagpipe sound process. So step 9, which is the first step of tuning, we're going to balance the chanter using the graduated tuning effect. Okay? We're going to mouth blow the chanter and compare low A to high A, which is quite sharp there, right? Okay. So if it's sharp, we want to raise the reed and the reed seat. This will cause the high hand to become flatter relative to the bottom hand. That's much better after I raise the reed. You would do the opposite if the high hand were flat, by the way. And if you're not sure, experiment. Spend plenty of time experimenting, and eventually you'll find what sounds the best. Now, step 10, we're going to open up a drone and tune it to the low A of our bagpipe. Sounds bad there. Okay. But we're going to test what direction to move the drone. When I eased off the pressure there, the tuning sounded a lot more pleasant to the ear. Okay. So, if it sounds better when you ease off, that means your chanter is sharp relative to the drone. So we want to sharpen the drone by reaching up and lowering it, thereby sharpening the overall drone. If it gets worse, you do the opposite. Here's an example of that. Got worse, not better there, so I'm just going to move the drone upward. Quite a bit better after I do that. Okay. Every time I do that tuning process by moving the drone, I do it again a few times to really get it locked in to low A. It usually takes a couple of tries to get it perfect. There you go, pretty good there. Now, step 11. Once that first drone is in tune, I want to bring the others in tune with the first drone. At this point, I'm really going to kind of ignore my chanter. Okay, here I am uncorking the bass drone. I'm going to fire up. Try to ignore the chanter as I bring the bass into tune with the tenor. Try and do this very slowly and to hear the increase in quality of the tuning. It's getting better. That's pretty good. Now, before I'm done, I usually like to bring it past the point of being in tune just to make sure it can't get any better. That looks like this. They're moving it down a bit more. But listen to how the tuning isn't quite as good. Then I bring it back up again to get it locked in. Super. Now, you'll want to do that with the last tenor drone as well to complete the process. Step 12. We need to repeat these steps several times because the chanter is going to change in pitch over time. I'm a bit sharp here at the end of that tune. So you can cork up the drones or just tap them off like I do there. The chanter has sharpened, so I need to move the drone down. It's a bit better. Now efficiently, I'm going to bring the bass back in again. And you know which way it's going to move because we just moved the tenor drone down. So you may move the bass drone down to match it. We'll do the same with the final middle tenor. There you go. So I've just done that process efficiently again, and I'm ready to carry on with my practice session. So it's important to know, okay, especially here in step 12, experienced pipers tune their pipes many times each session. In a 45-minute period, you're probably looking at retuning just like that 10 to 15 times. Okay? Here we are in the final step. Using the blow trick, we'll actually be able to fix individual notes, like the D right there that was really quite sharp. You don't have to know it's sharp. We're going to test. When I ease off the blowing on D, it sounds much better. That means the D is sharp, and I can fix the D with tape. Just be careful not to go crazy with tape, especially on the high hand, because that will cause volume problems and potentially squeaking and chirping. So we try to minimize tape, but we absolutely want to use it for fine-tuning purposes, like in this case with the D. And that's really it, okay? Practice these 13 steps in order on a regular basis to master your bagpipe sound.